This is you. You have a name, areas, resources, and worlds of personal development you're interested in. You have bills to pay, classes to attend, and other repeating responsibilities. So, how do we integrate that into the Grand Life Planner? Welcome to the initial setup, where we'll talk about how to put our current and ideal life into the system. Let's start. First, let's go to the control panel page. Inside, we integrate everything about you into the system. Now, the control panel page is big, but it's only the upper half we'll care about for now. This is the part relevant to the basics, while the other half are for optional custom modifications in another video. So, who are you? Let's add your name, birth date, life vision, life mission, stage of life, and add a cover photo for your portrait. Next, what's your week start? This will edit all formula date computations in the entire template. I also recommend changing your week start in the Notion settings here in the side panel, settings, and then preferences to make sure everything is in order. What currency do you want your finance-related hubs to use? Although unlike the previous week start, there's no one-click shortcut in the Notion side panel that lets you edit the currency preference of Notion itself, what we do have is the one-click shortcut for all formulas that display text. The default we have is USD, so let's stick with that. Next, the defaults. These will only affect empty settings in the Grand Habits hub and the Gym hub if you use the two. But if, for example, a habit has its own heat map settings, then it overrides the defaults. Same with the Gym hub's exercises. So as of now, let's retain these. Next, what are the areas and resources of your life? Areas are your life domains. These are your responsibilities with a standard you want to maintain over time, while resources are your interests or knowledge banks. Let's start with who you currently are. Maybe you're someone with a home to manage, studies in school, and works in corporate. So let's set our areas as home, school, and work. By the way, there are dedicated pages for both areas and resources, but we're just here in the control panel since everything else is here. Next, what about your ideal self? We include our higher self here so that it can have permanent foundations where it can develop over time. Maybe your personal development interests include getting a side hustle, which is being a YouTuber in this case, getting into shape, and reading more. So let's set our new areas as YouTuber and physical, and let's set fiction as our new resource. Now, what worlds of personal development are you a part of? Since we already set our areas and resources, we now know what specific worlds we want to set. Let's plan things first, starting with our current self. For home, we have bills to pay and chores to do, so let's include the finance hub and house chores hub. For school, we have courses to learn and a career to track, so the course hub and the career hub are great. For work, we want to add our career plan and schedule our pay days, but since we already have the career hub and the finance hub, we'll just add the contacts hub. Next is our ideal self. For our YouTuber area, we want to plan how to begin our business and also track our hustle effort. So we use the side hustle hub, which is connected to the finance hub ecosystem. So when our business does generate income in the future, we can just add a new income stream in the income sources. Additionally, maybe we purchased an online course, so the course hub we previously added will be useful for this one too. For physical, let's add the gym hub. For our resource fiction, let's add the reading hub. There are two worlds we can optionally add, since they can help tie everything together, and will be useful for the connections video later. One is the alter ego hub for building your secret higher self, and next is the grand habits hub, since there are new habits we'd like to add. So let's add these worlds to our system by clicking active to show them in our main menu, track to show them in all formula displays such as the notifications and the world's dashboard in all action pages, and bookmark the most important ones to snap them to the top and show them in our home page's bookmarks view. In the end, our world settings will look like this. So we identified who we are, the areas and resources of our life, and we also identified the worlds. Now we have this question. Specifically, what are the things that repeat in our lives for both our current and ideal selves? Starting with our current self. For home, we pay bills and subscriptions based on a billing cycle: electricity, water, Netflix, and rent. We wash dishes daily, do laundry weekly, and shop groceries weekly, and do deep cleaning monthly. For school, our classes repeat on set days: biology on MWF, math on TTH, history on WF. And each class can have different repeating activity types: quizzes on Fridays, new lessons on Mondays. For work, our paydays repeat on every 15th and last days of the month. Next, what are the things that repeat for our ideal self? For our YouTuber side hustle, let's work on our side hustle every weekend, and we want to study an online course we purchased every weekend too. For physical, we do PPL, which is push, pull, legs, rest, split, so our repeats happen on cycle. For fiction, We have a big book to finish reading, so we want to be reminded every day to read it until we finish our page quota for the month for that book. But before anything else, let's pause. Right now, you're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot. Isn't that overwhelming? But remember that it's actually really good at this a lot. Because what we're doing right now isn't adding more load. We're instead removing all the mental load that you've been carrying all this time. What you see here is actually the amount of load you've already removed from yourself. Because previously, you had to memorize, rely on intuition, or use the fear of consequence all this time just to hold your life together. But now that you have a system, it will handle the complexity for you, and will only funnel actions to you when they're relevant. So let's continue. Now let's open our Notion and plug them into our worlds. We'll focus only on the basic settings. For our area home, let's go to the Finance Hub. We pay the electricity bill with a limited budget of $100 to $150 every 30 days. So let's pick the repeat type X days, since that's the most fitting for bills, since they're paid at 30-day intervals. We can make it monthly, but X days is more accurate. More on the differences of these repeat types in another video. If we don't know what properties to edit, no worries. You can always just hover in the choices to see instructions. If you're worried of any errors, you can always look at the reminder property, since this is what Notion will read to know when's the next due date. If you want even clearer instructions to know if you did anything wrong and want full confidence, just click on the page and see the processor property here at the bottom with this robot icon, since it will tell you if you did anything wrong. Just as an example, if we remove our X repeat property, our processor tells us, hey, you chose X days but forgot the number of days when to actually repeat it, which is based on the X repeat property. If there's an error, a black circle will also appear on the item in the Hub's main page, which appears if the processor has something to say. In other words, you have something to debug. So you know immediately if you accidentally did anything wrong without needing to open the pages one by one. We restore the X repeat value, and we also do the same for the rest of our bills. Our home has chores too, so we go to the House Chores Hub. We add our chores. We wash dishes daily, do laundry and groceries every week, and do some deep cleaning monthly. We set the first repeat date based on whenever we want the weekly and monthly chores to repeat. Our next area is school. Let's add our course schedules. Biology is MWF, Math is TTH, and History is WF. For the skills, let's add our university program. But more than just the class schedule repeating, what if some tasks within the class repeat? It's not just the main items of our world that repeats. If any action type, goal, milestone, project, task, reminders relevant to the world repeat, you can add them in the planner page, which all hubs have their own versions of in the worlds menu. If our biology class, for example, does quizzes every Friday, we go to the course hub's planner. All actions in the world's planner are normally hidden here since this is a niche need, since most planning occurs in the main menu's planner page. But we'll use it here and set our task, biology quiz, and choose the repeat option weekly. Usually we access the repeat settings in the repeat page of the main menu, but we can also access the repeat settings of any page by its templates repeat section as we previously did in our bills. We'll also move the due, which is today by default, to the first repeat date but only on the initial setup, since Notion will know when to move the due whenever we complete the task, which hasn't happened yet. Since there's a feature I'll showcase later, we'll also relate this to our area school and set the priority to high. Why we'll do this will be shown later. We'll also do the same for our weekly new lesson, but with the first repeat date on a Monday instead of Friday. For work, our paydays repeat. Let's go to the Finance Hub and add our salary. We set the repeat to be nth days here, and follow the instructions on Hover, which is to add the nth days property. So we do that, 15th and 31st of the month. If any month doesn't have 31 days, don't worry. Using 31st means it gets interpreted as the last day of the month. The Side Hustle Hub. We work on our YouTuber side hustle every weekend, so let's set that too. Should you relate an income source to the side hustle? Let's do that by adding the income source here. It's optional, but we can set its repeat to free for now, since we're not expecting recurring income yet if we're just starting. We also have an online course purchased, so we go to the course hub and add a YouTuber course, which we'll study on weekends, and add a skill of business here. For gym, we'll use the PPL split, push on the first day, pull on the second, legs on the third, and rest on the fourth. So we set them all to cycle, and hover over the option. We need a cycle length to know the total items in the cycle order to know its position in the cycle, and the first repeat date to calibrate the days. Cycle length is 4 because there are 4 things in the cycle. For cycle order, it's push 1, pull 2, legs 3, and rest 4, and add a common first repeat date for all. And as you can see here in the rules, the next date they will each be due is in succession, one after the other, and this cycle will repeat. Next for reading, we want to read a big book. If you want to be reminded every day to read our 100-page book until we finish our reading quota of 50 pages per month, so we'll finish the book in 2 months, we set the book's target to be 50 pages and repeat to be monthly quota. On hover of the repeat option, it says we need a quota. The quota is derived from the target property, which we already have, 50. Now that we put together all our repeats, they're all in different pages. So now the question is, where can we see them all? We'll go in depth about how connections and the workflow work, but for the basics, here goes. If you want to see all your repeats, head over to the repeats page, where your repeating items in the worlds are located. Also, here are your repeating actions per area. The Friday quiz and the Monday new lessons that we made are displayed here because their priority is set as high, and both are related to the area. And when anything will eventually be due today, they will appear in our homepage in the inbox. This includes our goals, milestones, projects, tasks, and reminders, areas and resources if they have actions due today, and all our worlds if they have any item like a class or build due today. In this video, we learned how to plug our life, that is our current and ideal life, into the system, including who we are, our areas, resources, worlds, and repeating items, and repeating actions. The next video will be about how the system makes connections and how you can build your own. Thank you.